Hey guys, how's everything going? VaulSC here. Today we're going to be talking about the faction of Yu Jing and the vanilla faction of Yu Jing in particular. And the topic for today is how to approach Yu Jing, build good lists, and win with Yu Jing, the vanilla faction, in light of recent events where Uprising took away all of the JSA units. So Yu Jing, basically, we know we're not getting a new sectorial anytime in the very near future. By the time you watch this video down the track years later, obviously that will have changed. But we've lost all the JSA guys. We've lost the Aragotos, the Kaisatsu, Shinobu, Karakuri. It's terrible. How do we even win now? So this video is just going to be a strategy video, not really doing my normal review faction of every individual profile, but just a general talk and discussion breakdown of what is left for Yu Jing that really works. How do you build the best possible Yu Jing list now that you can't take some of the options that you would have taken previously? So we'll go through that. We'll have a talk about it, and we can see what we can come up with. In general, I feel like Yu Jing is still a really strong faction despite the losses. They just feel a little bit less exciting now that they've lost a few things. But hey, who knows what the future holds? Things may improve. Just in terms of overall power rankings, it's very subjective. You can't really say anything for sure. I know that you guys are very curious about my own personal subjective, just throwing it out there off the top of my head opinion. I would say right now that I think that Vanilla combined is a little bit stronger than Yu Jing Vanilla, just because with their huge variety of really good options, you can cherry pick out such a list that is just that little bit more efficient than Yu Jing. However, Yu Jing's still more powerful than Pan-Oceania, but not by much. I mean, you've got the direct comparisons there. You've got the Hacktow versus the Swiss Guard. You've got the Rushi versus the Bulleteer. And there are a lot of sort of equivalents between the factions. But at the end of the day, Pan-Oceania doesn't have smoke. Yu Jing does. They don't have the really awesome warbands. Yu Jing does. They don't have this and that. I mean, there's a few things they have which is better, but Yu Jing has more of the cool stuff, more of the tools. So I think they're a little bit higher up. For comparing to stuff like Aleph and Ariadne, I just don't really know. I do know that Haqqislam is probably still a bit better, but just because some of the scenarios just really favor Haqqislam more than any other faction right now. So that's just a general overview. But anyway, I'm getting off topic. Let's get into it. So when I was building lists with Yu Jing in the past, I would almost always take a Kaisatsu hacker, just because that's so much cheaper, whereas the regular Zanchi still a bit more expensive, so saving a couple of points there. But with the Zanchi, obviously, you still want to take him if you're going to be taking that Rushi, right? So there's that. The Raiden is a model I used to love taking. Now you can't, but possibly Major Luna is something you might want to fall back on for an ARO piece. We'll talk about that a bit more later in the video. You can't take the Shinobu or Onuwaban, but you've got the ninja, still can take two availability of them. So let's just dial it right back to the start. Let's look at what we've got and how we're going to solve this problem of how do we win with Vanilla Yu Jing now? What's the best way to do it? Well, as always, we've got the Celestial Guard with Guangxi control device, and we've got the 4 Guangxi with chain rifles. So, unless you're going to be building a limited assertion list, I think that you're always going to be going for those 5 models, and they're going to be the first thing you put into your list. With limited insertion, if you really know what you're doing with that, then you can still build a list which has some of the big stuff, your Dao Fei, Hacktow, Hessian Warrior, a lot of the big chunky medium sort of to heavy infantry units, and get them in there and create that list without the Guangxi. But for any other scenario, what we're going to be going for is a list that has between 14 to 18 orders, and maybe a couple of irregulars included in that for a War Corps or Shaolin monks. And the idea behind that is that rather than going for the full 20 orders, I don't think Yu Jing does that as well as other factions, just because when you're playing a 20-order list, it's mostly just remotes and warbands in that list. That list is not very good defensively. It's a lot easier for an opponent to pick things apart. Ariadne does that kind of list a lot better because they've got so many things on marker state, and they've got a couple of models which just trade up really favorable, like the Dog Soldier and so on. Yu Jing, I feel like you should be going for between 14 to 18 orders, including the irregulars in there. because you can still afford a lot of efficient stuff, but with that kind of model count, you can still afford 1 to 2 really powerful heavy infantry units. So that's going to be the crux of this video. That's what we're going to be going for in explaining how to create, a really powerful, optimal Vanilla YuJing list. Anyway, after you've put these 5 guys into your list, I'm almost always going to recommend going and grabbing the 2 Shaolin monks with chain rifle smoke grenades. I don't think you need more than 2. I don't think you can get away with less than 2. So 2 for me is the optimal number. Sometimes I'll take 3. Very occasionally I'll take 1. And on a very rare occasion I might take 4 of them. But there's usually going to be at least 1 on the list. I like to take 2. You're inevitably going to be taking an MSV2 model, so you need that reliable smoke in there. The Celestial Guard with his light smoke grenade launcher is hitting on a 14 at the right range band, but the thing about the Shaolin is they're getting it for free with their Impetuous Order. They're also really good at throwing it down with their Fizz 13 short range, hitting on a 16. So the power of smoke in the YuJing list, obviously you're setting up your Xian Warrior or your Rishi. You're defending your lines as you're getting attacked with arrows with the smoke. As your Guangxi move up impetuously, the Shaolins can get in there first, lob the smoke grenades, the Guangxi can move into the smoke grenades rather than getting shot. That's really important. Then you can use a coordinated order to move them all back later. Also, if you're being attacked, your Shaolin monk might not be able to win the face-to-face roll with the smoke roll, but you can always opt to just do a sacrificial smoke grenade where you let the Shaolin die, but you throw the smoke grenade over there. It's a targetless ability, and the arrow is legal for you just to throw a smoke grenade elsewhere in your deployment zone and cover other more important things. So having the ability to do that is just crucial, so you're always going to be doing that. Every list is going to have at least 1 ninja. Now, I did toy with taking 2 of them and theorized about 2 of them, but I've sort of come back in my ways there, and I think that really the way to go is to have 1 ninja, 1 guilang, rather than having 2 of each or anything like that. The thing about that is that you've got 2 button-pressing models, but you can adapt to the situation a lot more easily. So if you're seeing that there's an enemy model that you can kill with a hacking device, well, you only need 1 ninja to do that a lot of the time. If there's an opportunity to move in and kill them in close combat, the 1 ninja is going to be enough. Sometimes the need will arise to do some shooting, but the Guilang's so much better at that with his combi rifle and his X-Visor and his camo, and his obviously business skill 11, so he's got to be able to do the shooting better than the ninja who's only got a bow and arrow. Also, if you're just pressing buttons, well, the Guilang's slightly better at that with willpower 14. He's got mines, the ninja doesn't have mines, so by taking 1 of each, you're having a more balanced approach to YuJing, and you're able to adapt to a lot more tactical situations. I think it's just a little bit too hard skewed if you go for 2 ninjas or 2 Guilangs. Some lists you might actually be able to take the 2 ninjas and a Guilang, but generally this is going to be your setup. So we've got the Celestial Guard and Guangxi team, double Shaolin, Ninja, and Guilang. So they're always generally going to be in there, right? I also think that almost always you're going to be grabbing a Krakot Renegade, either with a Red Fury or a submachine gun, but it's going to be partly dependent on whether we have a Rushi a lot of the time. Still, taking the 15-point guy is going to be, he's going to be in there a lot. The Zanshi Doctor, it's sad that we can't actually take the cheaper Doctor now, the Tokusetsu, but we're just going to have to suck it up, spend an extra point on it, just because at the end of the day, there's other things in this list which JSA can't take, that other factions just can't take, which are really, really efficient, and you need the Doctor to help them. And obviously, as you saw in my previous video, just gives you that really easy opportunity to complete the experimental drug classified. So we've only spent 114 points. We've already filled out an entire combat group, 8 regular orders, 2 irregular. So we've got that entire group right there. We've still got 185 points to play around with. Now, here's the thing. YuJing do heavy infantry quite well. Not in the sense they can have lots of infantry, not in the sense that every single heavy infantry profile is good, just in the sense that they have 3 or 4 very, very good heavy infantry models and a really good way of backing them up. That's what YuJing are really best at. They have the cheap, expendable warband stuff, the light stuff, and that fuels the really powerful stuff, the really efficient stuff, and that's their thing. That's what you get for YuJing, and that's the button that you want to maximize the most, right? So we've got, quite a few different heavy infantry choices in front of us. Who do we take? Now, my candidates are as follows. The 4 big boys that you want to go for, and you want to build the list around 1 or 2 of these choices, are the Hacktow, the Xian Warrior, the Yanhuo, and the Dao Fei. Those are your 4 go-to guys, I think, in Vanilla YuJing. You want to build a list around one of those guys, or even 2 of those guys. As you can see, we've got the points for it. We've already just used 10 orders, and we can, in 185 points, you could take 2 of the models that I just mentioned and have a few orders, points left over to buy a few more cheerleaders for them. Now, the thinking behind this is that our heavy infantry, they're going to do work. We want to invest a serious amount in them. We want them to have abilities, right? So we'll talk about them a bit more individually in a moment. There are some other heavy infantry models that I would not recommend for vanilla in this particular role. The Crane Warrior, the Shang-Chi, the Zuyong, the Wu Ming. These guys aren't really what you want when you're investing in a point man, the guy to actually handle the arrows and do the killing in the active turn. Don't get me wrong, Imperial Service make great use of the Crane and the great use of the Wu Ming in linked teams. Inevitably, we'll get another sectorial, probably Imperial, so Invincible Army or whatever they're calling it, and that will probably turn the Zuyong and the Shang-Chi into really good models for linked teams. But as it stands, they're not as good for the Vanilla YuJing approach. The thing about the Dao Fei and the Hack Tao and the Yanhuo and the Xian Warrior is that you're going to be able to utilize them in such a way that every time you spend an order on them to attack things, they're going to have the benefits of, camouflage or MSV2 or just really heavy weaponry for winning the face-to-face rolls effectively. If you take your Zuyong or your Shang-Chi, you're just opening yourself up to being less efficient, potentially losing face-to-face rolls, getting fewer hits off when you're doing arrows. They're more susceptible to enemy MSV and not MSV, camo and stuff like that. They're not going to be able to crack a tag as easily. They're not going to be able to kill TR bots efficiently. They're not going to be able to deal with that TO sniper as easily, whereas your main men are going to be able to do that. Now, I just want to say, as an aside, the Sujian and Sun Se are a bit more corner case. They're a bit more specialized, and you can make lists around them, but you sort of have to factor them in first and know what you're doing when you build those lists. Just for the general approach and the general widespread sort of approaching YuJing right now, it's the Hack Tao, Xian Warrior, and Crane and the Yanhuo that I want to talk about in this video. Just to use an analogy, let's take a look at this computer chair that I'm sitting on. It's not the best computer chair in the world, but I used to sit on just like a department store office chair, which was really cheap, and I just bought it because it was the cheapest thing around. But then I started to think about the fact that I'm spending so many hours every day in this chair, I may as well invest some money into it. Because quality of it becomes much more important when you're actually going to be using it so much. And in the same way, if you're going to be investing not just your points, but the role of an attacking piece and the very absolutely crucial orders and your entire turn into an attack run with a heavy infantry piece to remove their TR bot, their sniper, kill some of their link team. Yeah, you save points by, taking a Zuyong with HMG, but the Hack Tao is going to get that done so much more efficiently, and you can afford him. So you're going to be wanting to use him or the Xian Warrior, whatever that is. Let's start by looking at the Hack Tao, and this is a unique model to Vanilla YuJing. No other faction in the game can take it. Obviously, if you're playing Japanese, you can't take this guy. Imperial Service can't take him. And there are a couple of profiles which I really love. The Executive Order HMG. This guy, he's fantastic. He's great at basically preventing an assassination run on your lieutenant. Because if you've got the old Zanshi with lieutenant here, as soon as they come around to kill him, you bring your Hack Tao out of hidden deployment. The lieutenant is swapped over to the Hack Tao just before they kill the Zanshi, and they've wasted themselves. Also, the Hack Tao's not going to get assassinated himself because you can keep him in Marcus State, prone behind a wall, or in hidden deployment before he starts activating, and then once he starts activating, then he can use that extra juicy, efficient lieutenant's order. But then, when you're actually fighting with him, he's got that BS-14, the HMG, the Nanopulsar, Armor 5. He's got all the stats that you really want. He, surprise attack. So he's going to be your guy to actually obliterate the TR bot or the enemy, missile launcher in the link team or their sniper. Even against other TO models, because of the weight of fire and ballista skill, he's going to be able to easily beat off a Hex sniper or something like that. So if you're wanting to create a really powerful YuJing list, you should include a guy like this. Alternatively, if your other heavy infantry model is going to be the attacking piece, I also really like the Hack Tao with the missile launcher. Now, Granted, he's not as good as the Swiss Guard missile launcher, but that difference of 15 versus 14 in terms of the ballistic skill is it's not a deal breaker. You know, this guy's still really worth taking, and he comes with a nanopulsar if he's ever called on to defend himself. He's better in close combat as well, a little bit better at dodging with kinematica. The Hacktow, he's fantastic with that missile launcher. If you're playing on a relatively open table, you're able to control the field really, really well, revive him with your Doctor. So Whip 13 Doctor, at least Yujing's better at doing that than Pano. He's got his cube there, and if enemy models are trying to come into his position and get him into close combat or something, well, you've got your Guangxi nearby, you've got your Shaolin nearby, things like that. So Hacktow with missile launcher, really strongly recommend trying this guy. And this is not something that you can really do with any of the mercenary factions. This is something that YuJing still have, that they can still crush with. Now, I know a lot of you guys really love the Killer Hacker profile. Yeah, he's cool. If you're going to take another model that's going to do the HMG work, sure, go ahead with this guy. I just feel a bit wary of it because these days in the meta, we've got stuff like Kernau in the Onyx faction. After this guy gets revealed, you know, he shoots a repeater next to him. Maestro takes him from 2 wounds down to 0 wounds. They're going to outfight him. You've got the deflector there. So he becomes a little bit of a liability. He's still very strong, but I feel like this profile, the Hacktow, is better off doing that shooting, that long-range shooting work. Next up, the Xian Warrior. It's always going to be either the HMG or the HMG Lieutenant. Sometimes you might want to go with like a multi-rifle or something with a deflector for transmission matrix or something like that, but most of the time it's going to be the HMG. This guy's deadly efficient. You just want to be keeping him protected and in cover and surrounded by chain rifles so that when you move out, you've got the smoke going down, he moves and shoots things. So having this guy means that your opponent can't really just set up any static defense. As soon as they put a TR bot out there or a TO sniper or something like that, this Xian Warrior is just going to eat him for breakfast. So building a list around this guy, really, really powerful. And he's affordable. I know 60 points is a lot, but everything else in your list is so cheap, so that's one way to go. The Dao Fei, similarly, you'll be wanting to go with the Spitfire or the HMG. Moving out, especially if you've got first turn. If you don't have first turn, just hold them back a bit. Keep them somewhere near your deployment zone. Keep them marker state behind cover. And he gets to the enemy a lot more quickly. Also, much more importantly, he's able to set up on a building out in the field that it'd take you like 5 or 6 orders to get into that building and climb up the walls and set up a position up shop in the top. Infiltration allows you to be there at the start and get those awesome sight lanes. He makes an awesome reserve model. So as you can see on this list, we can afford to take a Dao Fei with the Spitfire, and we can afford a Xian Warrior Lieutenant with HMG, and we've still got 70 points left. So that's really awesome combination. One model I really like taking nowadays is the Kanren with Mad Traps. You've already got specialists. You've got the Guilang. You've got the Ninja, so you don't need this guy to be a specialist. Now, the great thing about the Kanren is if you're going second, you can deploy him back in your deployment zone. You can use your 3 Hollow Echoes to pretend to be a Xian Warrior. So you're actually deploying 1, 2, 3, 4 Xian Warriors, and they've all got HMGs. Your opponent doesn't know which lieutenant to assassinate. Also, if you deploy them so that some of the Hollow Echoes are covering a partial line of sight across the battlefield in an oblique way, if they move some pleb into range of one of those lines of sight, they don't know whether they're going to get hit by an arrow from an HMG or if it's just going to be like a Hollow Echo, right? So if you set up several of these and not facing their deployment zone, your opponent has a real trouble approaching you. I mean, if they're moving out with their Bulleteer, cool. They don't know whether they're going to be into a shootout, whether it's sort of, them hitting up against your Xian Warrior, maybe hitting on a 14 or a 17, or whether they're just going to be wasting an order, cautiously coming into line of sight around cover against the Kanren. So I find that really beautiful. If you have the first turn, though, you can move the Kanren into a position where you set up the Mad Traps in a location that protects your Ninja and your Guilang in the middle of the table and forces them to expend things to get rid of the Mad Traps. And he's not all that expensive either. He can even use his monofilament weapon occasionally. When you come out of Hollow Echo state, I think you get Surprise Attack, and he's, CC9 with Martial Arts level 1, so he gets Stealth. So if they leave a tag out in the middle of the field, that could be quite a crazy way to actually destroy it if you've already lost the Ninja, for example. So we've already built quite a powerful list, and we've still got, 40 points left over for chucking in maybe the Chayi remote, for example, for an extra regular order. We could even take in the other two Shaolin monks if we wanted to. I can throw in like a minesweeper. We've still got enough points left over for that Krakot Renegade with submachine gun. There's another 11 points if you want to take a decoy lieutenant or even a real lieutenant. So this is a list with, after we shift over the Shaolin, that is, so bring those guys over here, put the heavy hitters in group 1. So you can see that this is a list with a full-on 10 order, heavy removal sort of, heavy duty sort of, battle group. Then the secondary group has got plenty of orders to throw the smoke grenades around, run around with the Krakot Renegade. We could put the Guilang into the second group, for example, just so you could spend an entire, secondary pool on pressing buttons, laying mines. So we've got a really efficient list here, guys. This is actually quite a strong list. Coming back to heavy infantry, what if you don't want the Daofei? What if you don't want the Xian Warrior? Well, another approach you can take is to go with something like a Haktao with the HMG, Executive Order, and your ARO piece might be in the form of the Yan Huo. The thing about the Yan Huo is that he is a real problem to actually spend orders dealing with in terms of the reactive turn if he's got the missile launcher. Or if you really want to take the HRMC, he really busts through things even harder than the Haktao does in some cases in terms of the attacking turn. I really don't recommend the HRMC unless you're up against people who like to sort of use their tag as an arrow piece, or they use a lot of TR bots, or they just have a lot of heavy infantry that like to sort of sit out there, or links and so forth, and they like to leave arrow pieces facing your deployment zone. Otherwise, it's the missile launcher that you use to really force them to have to sort of put the smoke down, get out their Jambazam, whatever it is, start shooting you. You go back into cover, revive them with your doctor. So when you play that game, the 56 points is actually really worth it because everything else in your army can do the rest of the work in terms of skirmishing and attacking. So that combination of Haktao for offense, Yan Hao for defense is really quite brutal. And the list can afford 2 heavy infantry guys like that. I'd like to say briefly that, yeah, the Guilang, the Guija tag is an option. It's a fairly dry and fairly boring tag. Just be mindful that if you're going to be playing this guy, make sure you've got the engineer, make sure you deploying him very carefully. Don't be aggressive with him. Leave the aggression for a Rushi or a Kanren, or not a Kanren, a Krakot Renegade. Use this guy later in the game for attacking with. Use them for busting long-range arrows if you have to, but don't really leave your deployment zone, and surround him with your mad traps and your chain rifles, because if he gets in close combat with a Specular Killer or something like that, or a Fide El Jabal, he's just going to die. So he's harder to use than the really awesome heavy infantry models are. So let's bear that in mind. If you're not going to be running a Xian Warrior, though, I'd really recommend going and grabbing the Rushi, just because it hasn't been affected by the change from Uprising. You can still get it for that bargain steal price of SWC 1. So if you've got the Haktao and the Yan Huo, maybe put the Rushi in there as well, sacrifice something else for it, maybe the Krakot, and put in a hacker in there as well if you can afford it. Really, I wouldn't take the Rushi without the hacker because you need assisted fire on him. That's where he gets most of his value from. Just a side note about Major Luna. I don't feel like she's really a great replacement for the Raiden, just because the Raiden is better in the active turn with burst 2 for the rocket launcher, and he provides a mine, and he's cheaper. The thing about Major Luna is that she's probably at her best in any mission which it has a saturation zone. So if they are -1 burst for shooting at you, and you're shooting back with your 1 burst anyway, well, she's a bit more effective. Also, when you're shooting in your active turn, their reactive burst, example, if they're in a missile launcher link team, they're down to burst 1 again, and you could use marksmanship level X, which is still going to be burst 1, and it would have been burst 1 anyway had you not used that skill. So you get the most out of that skill, really. So that's where she would really shine. Tiger Soldier, if you're not going to be running like the Rushi or Krakot as much, or if you're running a bigger list with just 1 heavy infantry model in it, you might be able to afford the Tiger Soldier, and he's definitely on my top 5 all-time list of drop troopers, because you pay for precisely Ballistical 13, a Spitfire, and Mimetism, which is all you really want with that kind of trooper. He's medium infantry, 4-2 speed, but he's already at their deployment zone, so you don't really need to be any faster than that. He's going to be moving and shooting with his first shot skill the entire time, so this guy is just gold if you can afford him, but sometimes he can be quite hard to utilize if the enemy's got a lot of mines and crazy koalas and traps and hidden deployment missile launchers and sniper rifles and stuff like that, so be careful with him. He's just not that easy to use. So yeah, sadly, Shang-Chi, for the reasons I've mentioned, Wu Ming and so forth, we're going to have to wait for the next sectorials for that. The Su Jian, again, you can make that guy your attacking model, so long as you're prepared to really, use him right. If you're not going to go to like Hack Tao and Yan Huo, you might go Su Jian plus Hack Tao or Su Jian plus Yan Huo, and you're going to be defending with the one model and attacking with the Su Jian. Just so long as you're confident you could find the right angles, so long as you're confident you're not going to get hacked, things like that, then of course he's good. In the same way that he's very, very good in Imperial service. Sun Tze, again, this is more for people who want to build a list around, making sure that they win the lieutenant's role, making sure that they avoid like superior infiltration stuff and impersonator stuff by using Strategos level 3 to its fullest, and doing without the kind of combat prowess that this guy doesn't really give you when it comes to comparing him with, say, the Hack Tower or the Xian Warrior. Yeah, anyway, I hope that I get to play a bit more regular Yuching soon. As you guys can see, they're still really, really strong. It's just a shame that we can't sort of get away with our discount Kaisotsus and our Raiden and include Shinobu in there as one of our 50-point models kind of thing, but we can still do it. And I think in the modern era of Yuching, I really like the idea of taking a Hack Tao Executive Order HMG or missile launcher, or taking a Xian Warrior, and maybe a Yanhuo missile launcher. You can still afford all of the other really awesome stuff in Yuching. The Rushi's still nice and cheap, and all of your warbands are still just as broken as they ever were. So good luck, guys, with Yuching. Hope you guys do really well, and hopefully we'll have some more bat raps from VaulSC with Vanilla YuJing in the near future. But I've got a lot to do, so we'll see how we go.